From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? Welcome on into Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. That's who brings you this great program called Wake Up Warchant. Use the promo code Warchant30 if you're not already a member. Corey, if you want to go to Zaxby's in all these trying times, just know at least the 7 or 8 that are my favorite. You know, obviously the ones in Tallahassee, the one in Marianna, the one in Douglas, Georgia, and the one in Thomasville, Georgia as well. They're still open. They're rocking and rolling, but they've gone to drive-through only. You can use the app and actually order it, and they'll bring it to the curb for you if you want to drive up and get it, or you can go to the drive-through like old school, or if available in your area, the food delivery apps are still also bringing the people what they want, Zaxby's. So there's that.
And that's good because we're gonna need. I did one of those delivery services last night for the first time since all this happened.
Okay. What are your
And
thoughts?
it made sense. It wasn't Zaxby's. That might be tonight, actually. And it might actually be tonight. Yeah, I'm in the mood for a little Zax, maybe a Zax snack or a. I'll probably just do my salad. But even still, I'll get the fried mushrooms. Brady will get the chicken because he loves the chicken and the Texas toast. But yeah, it was. It makes sense, right? Instead of going sitting down and rubbing shoulders with people,
Right.
get the delivery.
How was it your first time? Were you leery about some weird person bringing you your food just in a plastic bag with a knot tied on it?
Sure, but I'd be leery if I went in there, and who knows who's handling it there too. So,
Okay.
But yeah, mainly it was just because I was a little sick of my frozen dinners, so I needed a night off from the frozen dinners. But and then I'm thinking about Zaxby's now, and I can't make a salad like that.
That's right.
So yeah, this is gonna be hard. It's gonna be a hard couple weeks.
We're going to talk about sports, we promise. It's mostly going to be a Renegade Express edition of the program. Also, we'll have a live chat with Corey at 1:30 p.m. taking more of your questions, but also talking about the urgent news of the day because on Tuesday, the ACC followed suit. So the NCAA was like, listen, spring sports, we're not doing any championships. But a lot of the conferences kind of maybe held out hope that they would somehow be able to at least play some of these spring sports. Maybe not have a national championship, but perhaps just play it out, have conference championships, something like that. But the ACC announced on Tuesday, and I think maybe the Big 12 already had announced. I think the SEC followed suit or somewhere around the same time frame. But they've gone ahead and said, yeah, all spring sports canceled, done, nothing. Not surprised, obviously, since there's no national tournament, but maybe that takes like the last gasp anybody had for sports, at least until the summer, pretty much gone, right, Corey?
Yeah, which, the writing's been on that wall for really since the weekend, that it was going to be really hard to get anything really back playing again this year, which is just, again, it's a bummer. And, you think about not just the baseball, basketball, softball, tennis, golf, all of those athletes, but the seniors that don't get a graduation. They don't get to, a lot. That means a lot. There's a lot of athletes, well, just a lot of people in general at Florida State. They might be the first person that's ever gotten to walk across that stage and have their family there to cheer them on and shake hands with the president and get their diploma or their little certificate for a diploma. Well, that's not happening. They don't get to walk across the stage now. Obviously, that's not the end of the world. It's not the biggest concern we have right now, but I can understand that would be a big disappointment for some people that they don't get to have that moment. Because I remember how important it was when Shanna walked across after getting her master's, and Brady was there to cheer her on. It was a really neat moment. I would have felt a little bit robbed of that moment for him to see it. It was a really neat moment for him to see his mom accomplish something like that. And then him not, I'm sure he doesn't even remember it. It's Brady. I'm sure he was on an iPad when it happened, but still, it's the sentiment.
Right.
And yeah, that's I feel for those people. I feel for those families. But we're all having to make huge adjustments, and this is just another thing. But yeah, that wasn't really a surprise, was it? We kind of all saw the writing on that wall.
Right. The reason we're going to do the live video chat at 1:30 on Wednesdays because in the morning there will be a teleconference with Mike Martin Jr. He'll just kind of talk about his thoughts, obviously, about having this season kind of stripped away from him and just kind of guess where they go moving forward. I mean, I wonder how they're going to do recruiting. I don't know if this is extended to showcases and how many travel ball teams and little league teams or whatever you want to call it. How many of them are going to shut down shop and how they can kind of recruit?
I guess
so we'll
not
talk
really
to him
even
and
in addition, but with the ACC
announcing that they're not going to have any sports, which Corey obviously was saying, this past weekend looked like it was a certainty. It also does include spring football games, so there won't be a spring game, and there also won't be any sort of spring tour with Mike Norvell going around to various booster stops, which is a big bummer for him not to be able to kind of interface with the fans, because these are fun things. I remember, Willie's first tour was, it was a huge deal. Everywhere he went, huge crowds, lots of excitement. So the fact that he can't do that obviously hurts. But then, I don't want to get too much into it because I'm terrible at math, but there's going to be a financial impact that a lot of these schools every school is going to absorb. And I don't know, some schools obviously are going to be in a little better shape than others to sort of deal with the blow of this sort of stuff. But, spring tour builds up momentum and enthusiasm and season ticket sales and things like that. So, not an ideal situation for a first-year head coach to not be able to have one of these to drum up support.
Well, but we don't know if it's canceled permanently. There's a chance hopefully when this thing dies down, that maybe you do it in June.
Come on. He's going to have time to step away from football.
What's he going to be doing in June?
Getting ready for doing the spring practices he wasn't able to install.
Well, if that happens, yeah. But if that doesn't happen, heck, they were going to be practicing some of the time he was going to be on this tour too.
That's true.
So they do these. Like they'd practice on a Tuesday morning, and then he might be in Jacksonville on a Tuesday night giving a speech. So that still could happen. Yeah, that could still happen because, that is a big part of it, man. It's not the NFL. The NFL, they all get the money. Like, there's no money concerns with the NFL. With the way Florida State's gone the last 3 years, on top of this, well, yeah, man, there's a numbers crunch. There's a money crunch. And if you're I don't work for the university. Obviously, it's better for us when they're good. But if you have the means, they really need, they need people to step up here because this is a really trying time. And it's something that maybe a lot of the SEC schools aren't having to deal with right now, this kind of money crunch. And this money they expected from the spring game, from the spring booster tour, trying to, like you said, drum up support. So hopefully if you have the means, you won't that won't mean you won't contribute. Again, I don't work for Seminole Boosters. I don't work for the university. But this is a time, man, where a lot of schools around the country, not in the SEC and not in the Big Ten, are really going to have to tighten some purse strings. We still say that, right? Do we still call them purses?
Why? Sure.
Yeah, I guess we do.
Some wallet folds.
Tighten the bill fold. Yeah, and it's going to take it's just going to take a lot of work from everyone to try to absorb this. Because like you said, there's going to be some absorbing going on because it's going to be a gut punch to a lot of athletic departments around the country. But maybe they get it started in middle of June, and do like a truncated 8-city or 10-city or 12-city tour, or they do he's like a traveling. Like the Guns N' Roses, 13 tour stops in 15 days, something like that.
Appetite for Destruction tour. Yeah, make like tour T-shirts. Just like
Yeah, there you go.
I can't even think of a clever title, but yeah, do it. Well, hey, let's pivot to this. We've talked about it in a roundtable content item. I shouldn't say content item. That's like telling people secret recipe sort of stuff, or the way that we talk about things behind the curtain. But a story up on Warchant was involved a roundtable discussion between Corey, myself, Ira, and Gene, just about various topics about spring football. The last question, I think, was just what's gonna be the impact on this spring football season being cut short. And now we know it's officially done here, Corey, so maybe we can kind of revisit it, or there's any other additional thoughts you have. But I don't know if I conveyed this properly when we did it, but I guess it's probably me speaking out of both ends of my mouth, but all these other programs, right, have processes and their culture is kind of taken hold. Clemson, Alabama, right? So you would think they can probably weather a storm like this a little bit better, having things kind of out of whack, off kilter for them. But I don't know. I don't want to be insensitive here because people obviously have lost their houses in a hurricane. But I kind of, my sentiment was sort of like, Florida State and is in a neighborhood, and a big storm comes through, right? And people got nicer houses in the neighborhood, but their houses got knocked down. Florida State only had a concrete slab and a few pieces of rebar coming out of it. So I feel like this almost is kind of like a reset for everybody in a certain way, and I think the smarter coaching staffs, the more mentally nimble, agile staffs that have good ideas and are going to be creative with the time they have. This kind of almost makes things maybe I don't want to say maybe blessing in disguise for a guy like Mike Norvell. Or do you think there's absolutely no sort of advantage for Florida State not being able to get it in time, in order, the way they had it set up?
Well, I think for the football season itself, I think I'd feel better about things if this was year 3 or year 4 under Norvell. Because you are, in a culture had already been established, or a philosophy had already taken hold. But if you're going to have a first-year coach dealing with a crisis like this, he seems to be kind of the right guy for it. Because like you said, he is mentally agile enough and nimble enough I'm sure he's got 1,000 scenarios playing out in his brain about what we're going to do if this happens. If we can start by April 20th, if we can start by May 20th. Or June 15th. Are they going to let us have 8 practices late July, extra practices since we didn't have spring? How am I going to keep these players focused? What kind of plan are they going to have when they go home? If they're sent, I assume they're sent home. When they're sent home, when they go home, what kind of plans are we going to have in place? What kind of protocol are we going to have in place to make sure they're doing what we want them to do? Are they going to FaceTime us every time they're eating a protein shake to make sure they're doing it? They might. He might set, but that's something that I think he's thinking of all those scenarios. So in a perfect world, if this was year 3 or year 4, I'd really like your chances, because that's the thing right now, man. All these schools, I think, are on equal footing. As far as like the guys at Alabama, they have to be quarantined or sent away just like the guys at Georgia, just like the guys at Washington State and Colorado and Florida State. They don't get to enjoy their big, huge, beautiful football mansions right now, or they won't here soon. So in that regard,
but when this resumes, we're not all going to be on equal footing. Do you think the culture takes foot and these teams have the upper leg?
No, I don't. That these practices are valuable, and missing them isn't great. But everybody's missing spring practice. I think I guess that's the difference. Is everybody's missing spring practice, but this was an important spring practice to kind of instill what you expect, what the standard is. All that stuff was supposed to be instilled over these next 5 weeks. And it's just not going to have a chance to do that, which is obviously not ideal. But everybody in the country is going through not having spring practice, and everybody's going to have to figure out what to do in June and July when the season starts back up. So that's not anything out of the ordinary. I don't think Florida State's in a disadvantage there. I don't think it's a disadvantage because of the football mansions. I think the only disadvantage that Florida State has right now, because I think it's like, when they say that, like, when a great team plays a not great team, the not great team prefers it to be in mud, kind of slows everything down, makes everything equal or more equal.
Notre Dame 93 growing out the grass.
Growing out the grass to 6 feet, 12 inches high. That's kind of when everybody has to go home. There really isn't much difference, like I said, between an Alabama and a UCLA. All the players are on the same footing. They don't get the great nutritionists. They don't have the 100 quality control assistants going back and looking over every single play of every single practice. That's done. So everybody's in the same boat. The problem with Florida State is their boat is brand new, and they don't know what he didn't get a chance to instill what he needed to instill. So you hope he gets that chance in June. But all that being said, all that rambling, I think this is the kind of guy you want for a situation like this. He just strikes me as a guy that can handle this, maybe than other people. And that's not just a shot at Willie. I kind of think it's I'm not even taking shots at anyone. I just think that Norvell, he feels like the kind of person that can handle crises, I think. Crises. He can handle crises and situations like this maybe a little bit better than most.
Part of
and
the state.
And don't you think he'll have a plan in place?
Yeah, that's my whole thing. I just think it's, everyone's house just got toppled. Everyone's kind of starting from scratch. I feel like he will have some good ideas about how to get this foundation laid quicker and get some, drywall up quick and get the roof on first. He's not going to beat Alabama because Alabama's going to have bigger trucks and more manpower, but I think he'll be able to work smarter. And the Clemson game kind of a thing. But I think that this gets him closer to Miami and being able to surpass Miami. I think you talk about all the teams they lost to last season, Wake Forest and Boise State. I just think when this all starts up, I think it's like 2 steps back, 2 steps forward for everybody. But I'm hoping with him, it's 1 step back and 2 steps forward because it just seems like he'll be able to adapt to this. And maybe the fact that he hasn't been able to lay back on his, habits or whatever being in Tallahassee because he hasn't been here all that long will spur him and the staff on to get this thing going, pretty quickly. At least I'm trying to optimistically look at it because ultimately at the end of the day, it sucks that they're not able to practice. It's valuable, like you said.
Yeah, indeed it is.
His statement, part of it read, while everyone was looking forward to being on the practice field preparing to play the spring game in front of our great fans, we support today's decision. One thing we can control is our response, and I am looking forward to seeing our team's persistence through this unique situation. Control what you can control, right? Control.
That's what I like to say.
What you can control.
And another thing I hope they're all doing is kind of cutting out the clutter.
Okay, I agree.
You know what I mean?
It's time to do it.
Don't worry about all this clutter. Just focus on what you can focus on and eliminate the clutter. And really importantly, and this goes for everyone listening to this, keep your circle tight.
Absolutely.
In this day and age, especially in these next few weeks, keep that circle so tight it's barely a circle. It might just be you. But keep it tight, which is something I say to Stephanie quite a bit.
Let's go to the Renegade Express. Let's get on our ponies here. First question comes from Gort Loves the Knowles. Tell us the most embarrassing thing you did at a football game.
Wow.
Hey, man, I told everybody anything goes. We need content. We need questions. Most embarrassing
not
thing.
wow at the question. Wow at the. I mean, I feel like you've probably embarrassed yourself a whole lot more than I have.
I don't know why you would say that. I think I've done a good job at a game. As a professional, I've been pretty good. I've never cheered loudly in the press box or got into a fight or anything in the press box. Not that I can remember. Us trashing a Florida tailgate is a little bit. It's kind of low class. Not proud of that.
When did you do that?
2001. We got arrested, though, so there was, justice was served.
You got arrested?
Yeah. So, we parked. We didn't trash it. We stole a bunch of beers out of actually, no, we did trash it on the way back. On the way to Ben Hill Griffin, walking up, we pilfered a bunch of beers out of the cooler. And then on the way back to the car, I think we, kicked over their chairs and, maybe dumped the cooler over. And then by the time we got to the car, and we got into my car, it was whoop, whoop. Boom, spotlight, flashing blue and red lights. And, gosh, there was 5 of us in the car. One of my guys actually played baseball at Florida State. I think he might have gotten written up, too. We got written arrests. And, yeah, there was 12 bottles of beer in my car. It's 2001. I wasn't even – I was 19. Yeah, I was 19 years old. Yeah, it was bad. It wasn't good.
Well, you got what you deserved. You got your karma.
Yeah.
So that's good. I don't think I've ever really – that's pretty embarrassing. That wasn't actually at the game, but that's a pretty embarrassing moment. Yeah. I don't really think I can't really think of one. Because I went to most of my games when a majority of the games I've been to were as a kid, maybe until I was 18 or 19. Oh. And then once I started working – I started working when I was 21 or 22, maybe 22. So I haven't had a ton of Saturday, and I wasn't always covering Florida State, so I didn't get to go to a lot of Florida State games. Oh, I know what it is. When the Falcons beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game a few years ago. And then, I don't know if you remember, but in the Super Bowl, they got off to a big lead.
They showed that on NFL Network last night. I was going to tweet at you and tell you to tune in. It's
the Packers game?
No, the Super Bowl game.
The other one.
Yeah,
no.
I mean, do you realize how much you were dominating that game? I know the score was, but it was total domination. Like, first play from scrimmage, Devontae busted off like a 40-yard run. They were doing whatever they wanted for the better part of 3 quarters. It's amazing. Still can't believe it.
I remember, buddy. So at the Packers game, when it was not when it was over, there's 2 minutes left, and they started playing the "Turn Down for What" song.
Okay.
My buddy had his camera rolling, and I was dancing like a maniac. So that's probably pretty embarrassing, I'd say.
How embarrassing, Corey. Thanks for sharing.
So thanks
for bearing your soul.
That was only 3. That was 4 years ago.
Way to bare your soul.
Yeah.
Noel Dad.
Sorry, buddy. I haven't been arrested at a football game yet. But I still got, hopefully another 40 years to live. I got time.
You're too old now. You got a couple mortgages, kid, partner. You can't be embarrassing. These people.
I do have a partner.
Life.
That's right.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. Did I ever bust my rear end? Cheering, because I was obnoxious at games. The people I make fun of now for yelling and screaming all the time at bars. I would do that, but actually at a game, which is a little bit different, I think. But I don't think I ever fell down. I don't think I ever talked crap big time in a game and then we lost and I looked like an idiot. I was pretty good on that. But yeah, the 2001 Gainesville Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, that was not fun. And I think we got booted out of the Orange Bowl in 2003, the actual bowl game. And then I forgot why. So my buddy, there was a couple in front of us. My buddy tried to fight the boyfriend, and I think the girlfriend left to get a police officer. Police officer came, escorted us out. And then we somehow got back into the stadium and we exchanged shirts. I had a number 16 jersey because Chris Ricks was my guy. So my buddy wore the jersey, I wore his shirt, and then we snuck back in. I ended up going to the end. We had really good seats. I ended up going to the end zone, the absolute tippy top row. He was in the whole opposite part of the stadium. And then we got to watch Xavier Beitia miss another field goal to lose to Miami.
I remember.
So that happened. Noldad 84, for the love of God, can we get Corey to do an hour number 2? I mean, why?
It's the wrong show.
That too.
And we don't do 2 hours. The next headlines, I feel like I owe it to people. Maybe we'll do a headlines next week. I don't know. I guess we will. We can't just disappear. That would be awful for the Florida. It's already rough enough for you guys. If headlines went away, holy moly. So I'll do one. I'll do one the next time we get together. I have to set a reminder, but I will do one for the next one. Because they were the ACC champs and tournament champs. They deserve one.
Yeah. Mark Titus, who played, he was going to walk on at Ohio State, does a lot of podcasts. Club Trillion, I think, is his handle. Announced 5 national champions. These 5 universities have my permission to hang banners in the rafters claiming a national championship. Florida State was one of them. So there's that. Dickie V said that he would have picked Florida State to win it all, and Leonard Hamilton is his coach of the year. So, yeah, I guess that's enough equity to rip off an hour number 2.
Yeah.
Hour.
Yeah, I feel like that works.
Hour with an H, not with a
with a Y. Yawa.
Yabba dabba doo. Big Steve-O 22. What's going on, fellas? Crazy times right now. I want to thank you both and Warchant for continuous entertainment during these hard times. Corey, you were right when you stated the sports offer the perfect distraction from what's going on in the world. My question to you both, do either of you have one moment where you met someone and truly fanned out, meaning you felt like a little kid again? For Big Steve-O 22, he was at the Jay-Z Kanye tour. His buddy got back from Afghanistan, got VIP tickets. I tried to go to the bathroom before it started, got denied due to people coming into our section. The next thing you know, we were shoulder to shoulder with LeBron, Chris Paul, Anthony Anderson, T.I., and Beyonce was 2 rows in front of us. The craziest moment of my life. That wins.
Wow, that's a lot of star power.
That's huge. That's
like
a
any of those
galaxy.
people just by themselves would be like enough. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Not really. I think when I was young, when my first job out of college was at the Thomasville Times Enterprise in beautiful Thomasville, Georgia.
That's right.
And Charlie Ward came back to, I think, conduct a camp. And I interviewed him. And I remember having the photographer. I asked, I didn't make him. I wasn't running the show. I asked the photographer if he could take a picture of me interviewing Charlie Ward. And that was a really cool moment. And actually what I did was, because Charlie Ward was a pretty big hero of mine. He I was 17 when they won the national championship, so that's a good age to. And Charlie Ward was a very easy person to root for, and obviously really good. So I remember getting the picture developed, and then I framed it and gave it to my dad for a birthday present, and I signed it, which I thought was a nice touch. So yeah, I signed it. Best wishes, Corey Clark, and it was a picture of me interviewing Charlie Ward. And to bring it really down, when we empty out his office after he died, that was one of the pictures we took because he had it up in his office still. So to bring it down to on a somber note, but that was probably the last time because when you do this, like Jameis Winston was a huge star, a really important person. Obviously, I've been in rooms with Krzyzewski and Roy Williams and Gary Williams and Leonard Hamilton. And, I looked it up. I think Leonard Hamilton has coached against 111 first-round picks since he's been at Florida State. So when you see all these guys and you interview some of them, that kind of stuff loses its luster.
Right.
So even if I were to meet Tom Hanks, well, not for another week, I guess.
Well, supposedly he's fine. They're out of the hospital. Everything's good.
Yeah, but he said he still feels blah.
Oh, really?
He said he's still showing some of the symptoms.
One of my buddies, I don't know how you are, but we're probably pretty evenly distributed on overreaction and this is the right thing to do. And one of my buddies is constantly updating us with hey, did you see this? Did you see this? It's not as bad as everyone says it is. And he was like, Tom Hanks and his wife were gone out of the hospital. They're fine. I was like, oh, so some guy in his late 50s, early 60s who's a millionaire is going to survive this. Shocked. Everything's good. Back to normal.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I don't think I'm not over. I don't think it's an overreaction, and even if it is, it's certainly better than an underreaction. Right?
Deep.
Wouldn't you rather overreact and be like, well, maybe we didn't have to go to those measures, but that's fine. Then be like, we'll all work itself out. And you know what scared me? I know, again, we're not. This isn't political. I'm going to mention his name, but it's not political.
I'll bleep it out.
No, it's fine. It's not going to be political. It's fine. But what really scared me was on, when would that have been? Monday, with Trump's press conference, our President Donald Trump's press conference, where you could tell how seriously he was taking it. To the point that he was telling everybody, look, this is going to affect our lives. We might not get back to normal till August, July or August.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people that die. And what worried me about it is we all know, you can all go back and watch the clips or read his Twitter feed and see how not serious it was maybe being taken before that. What information did he get from the time he spoke on whenever it was, Friday or Saturday, till the time he addressed the country on Monday? That's what really concerns me. Did they get the real numbers from China?
Right.
Because heaven knows China isn't. I don't think they're up front.
Not a lot of transparency going on.
Not a lot of transparency there in China and Iran.
Iran,
sorry. I'm a Flock of Seagulls fan.
I gotcha.
So what did he find out? Because the complete tone and tenor of everything changed in a matter of it seemed like a day.
Yeah.
So that to me is where I'm like, oh boy, what does he know? Why all of a sudden is this imperative that it's just below 10 people?
I think this is so when things clear up in May, he can be like, hey, everybody said July and August. It's June now. We're back, baby. And then, boom, It's like setting expectations. For a guy that has not been a politician for more than 3.5 years, he's really good at being a politician. I think that's him just setting the expectations.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that was what was that really hit home. Like I even texted some people, man, okay, are you watching this Trump press conference? This is unlike any way he's ever looked before. Yeah. Then it went back to some other stuff, but in that moment, I'm like, man, that's scary. It was like bone chilling.
Yeah.
Like to see him like that, it's like, oh man, what? Maybe we haven't overreact. Maybe we haven't reacted. We still aren't overreacting. Maybe there need to be even more drastic measures taken, and I think there will be. Sadly.
Yeah, they closed my gym.
By the way, to get off that, do you know who Vanessa Hudgens is?
Yeah, man. Yeah, she was.
Did you see what she did?
I mean, yeah, can't do that, right? So she.
Have you ever seen?
Have I ever seen? No.
It's like
I can play it. Let me play the clip. I'll play
yeah,
it right
play it. It's crazy.
Yeah, till July sounds like a bunch of bull. I'm sorry, but like, it's a virus. I get it. Like, I respect it, but at the same time, like, even if everybody gets it, like, yeah, people are gonna die. It's just terrible, but like, inevitable? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now.
I mean, she was just speaking her mind. I like how she kind of realized in real time I shouldn't be doing this, but still did it anyways. So.
But the whole thought that isn't it inevitable anyway? Like, screw you, woman. Also, you're a woman. You talk like you're a 15-year-old high school girl. You're 31. Act like it. Talk like it. But that I've never seen, and it didn't really even anger me. It's just so buffoonish and stupid. And she does the bad thing about stupid people is they don't know they're stupid, and they never will.
All right.
So she didn't realize how stupid it was. She does now, hopefully, because she has 1,000 publicists. Think of like her family members, her publicists, her agents, being like, "Oh my gosh, there goes our cash. What is she? What in the just them like maybe they're eating their yogurt." And they just like, oh, what does Vanessa have to say on Instagram? This will be interesting.
Oh, she's
I bet
trending.
she's just telling people to stay inside and like take care of each other. Oh no, she said that old people die anyway. Yeah. And just like the spoon falling out of their mouths, or they see it while they're holding orange juice, and the orange juice just crashes to the floor like those scenes in those movies. It really fills me with joy.
Blue's an old man. Just
agents and publicists having to be like going to DEFCON 5 or DEFCON 1. Whichever one the worst one is. Yeah. I think DEFCON 1. To try to get that under control. And she's never coming back from that. That's a wrap. I had to ask Shanna who she was.
She already apologized. It's fine.
It's over then. Never mind.
We're forgiving.
Jane Fonda apologized too. I think people have forgotten all about that. Although Jane Fonda crazily actually had like a second act of her career. But I don't think that's going to happen for old Vanessa. What an unbelievable sentiment. Just, hey, old people die anyway. Isn't it inevitable? Sure, that's true.
So I haven't geeked out in a while. It's actually really nerdy when you think about it. So I was in Jackson, and my station wasn't going to pay for it, so I'm like, whatever. I figured it out. A guy I worked with had a buddy who had a cottage off like Frenchman Street in New Orleans. When the Super Bowl was down there, Niners, Ravens, Beyonce, lights go out at the Superdome. So I was in New Orleans for that, and I was at Pat O's, and I was lit. The way lit used to be before,
right?
19-year-olds took it and bastardized it for your own purposes because you're selfish. And I saw Steve Levy from ESPN like in this corner by himself, and I'm like, Sleeves. I'm like, Leaves. I'm like, dude. I'm like, I work in TV. I'm like, I've been watching SportsCenter since I was like 9. I'm like, you're one of the greats. I'm like, you're so great at your job. I just want to let you know that, man. I'm being serious. And he was just like so taken aback. Like he was just like, thanks. I think sometimes they're insecure and they do think that people are like pulling their chain. But I'm like, no, dude.
Right.
Like I think you're one of the best. So I think the only person I would geek, if I saw Ryan Russillo out, I'd probably be like, dude, but I don't want to meet him because I think he's so ornery that he'd probably be like he'd be a jerk, and I'd be like, I don't like you anymore. But that'd be on brand for him, so I shouldn't be hurt by that.
I got 2 bones to pick with Russillo real quick.
Okay.
And I don't listen to his show a ton, but I've heard him twice rip on Brian McCann, not for the Astros thing, but for people still give McCann grief, or at least Ryan Russillo does, because he had the audacity to not let Carlos Gomez touch home plate after Gomez hit a home run on the first pitch of the game and dog cussed the Braves pitcher the whole way around the bases. Like, it wasn't like he had just got knocked down and then hit a home run and like was talking smack because he had just gotten a knockdown pitch. It was literally the first pitch of the game, and he's screaming obscenities at Mahalam all the way around the bases, and all the Braves infielders are yelling at him. He's yelling at Mahalam, and then McCann's like, man, like stood right in front of home plate. Essentially, I guess Ryan Russillo, if he was the catcher, would have just been like, hey, man, good hit. You're right, Mahalam does deserve that. Talk your smack, man. This is fun. That makes a lot of sense what you're doing. No, he would have lost his mind too. He loses his mind over dumber stuff than that. So that's number one. And number two, he was giving everybody grief for calling out NBA owners for not immediately stepping up and saying, we're gonna pay the wages of our hourly employees for the time that they lost during the next 6 weeks.
Well, he was calling it like the faux outrage. He was like, and he even said, I'm not a pro-owner guy. Like, he's like, I hate defending the owners, but the fact that people have made takes and livings out of, like, you know, why did it take you so long? Everybody else already donated money. It's like, hey, man, just can we not appreciate the gesture?
I retweeted it for Zion because Zion came out and said he's going to pay the Pelican staff, the stadium workers, the money that they would have gotten for the next, 9 or 10 home games they had left. And I don't think it's unreasonable to point out, why would that occur to Zion and not to whatever her name is, Gail Benson, who is worth $3 billion. Why would that occur? And keep in mind, Zion has had money for 17 minutes. He didn't grow up rich. And maybe that's what, to me anyway, and maybe I'm reading way too much into it, that to me is why Zion, especially somebody like Zion, it would occur to him to help out people like that. Because he's grown up around people like that all his life. People that work paycheck to paycheck, that need that extra bump. And it occurs to him within a span of literally 24 hours, who's taking care of all those people? I want to pay them out of my own salary. Even though I make whatever I make, look, Zion makes a ton. Whatever he makes, $14 million a year. Well, Zion's probably worth $100 million. Old lady's worth $3 billion. And it doesn't occur to her to do that in the moment. Why not? I think that's not an issue, but I think that's something you can point out. Like the hypocrisy of it. They're her employees, essentially, or she rents the stadium, but they're people that work for her team. And why would it occur to Zion, who makes much, much, much less money,
to pay them more? You know, he bumps into the security guard.
Yeah, exactly. She's not. Did it even occur to her? And if you read the Pelicans release, because she got so much grief for it. That's why I wonder. That's why I don't let Russillo just say that.
Okay.
Because it seems to me that Zion probably told them he wanted to do that, and it seems to me that the Pelicans were like, I don't know, and then Zion just went ahead and did it anyway. So they don't get it. This owner in particular, I don't think gets a break for that. I get it. I get it that everybody. I get the outrage and the outrage and the faux outrage, and I wasn't outraged. It just occurred to me. Okay, it's the teenager that stepped up to the plate and decided to pay these people. Did it even occur to the 68-year-old billionaire? Did it even occur to him?
I don't know. You've said it 8 times. I get it, Corey. On to the next thing. Let's get back to sports, man. Here we go. Reddick Knoll, writing from Ocala, Florida, home of John Brantley and FSU national champion P.J. Williams. My question to you, if Landon Dickerson and Cole Minshew were fully healthy, played their original positions, and Josh Ball never put his hands on that young lady, do you think Willie Taggart would still be around?
What were the first two?
Landon, All-American Dickerson, and Cole Minshew.
No.
Okay. Besides this, what is your biggest if in Seminole history? Mine would be, what if Randy Moss could lay off the bong and was not dismissed?
That is by far the biggest what if.
Wrong.
What do you mean?
Jeremy Pruitt. What if Jeremy Pruitt doesn't take the job at Georgia?
No.
What?
The
What?
Randy
Come on,
Moss
man.
is
You're winning a national title, probably.
well, right. But what do you think they would have done?
With Randy Moss, who
So
knows?
Randy Moss in '96 would have been a redshirt freshman. He should have played in '95, but he didn't. I guess that was how Bowden got him into school, as he promised. I think that would have been Sandy at the time, the president, that he would redshirt him.
Old Talbot, yeah.
Yep. So in '96, you have Renard Wilson, Andre Wadsworth, and Peter Boulware on your defensive line. Your receivers are Andre Cooper, E.G. Green, Peter Warwick, Randy Moss, and Lavernius Coles. Your tailback is Warwick Dunn. The '96 season, the '96 team went undefeated, and then they had to play Florida again in the Sugar Bowl. Right. If they have Randy Moss on their team, they beat Florida so badly, in my opinion, that Florida can't back its way into the championship game. Okay. Instead of it being 24-21, they win that game 40-14 or something. Imagine Randy Moss. I mean, so in '97 they set all these records. I think they scored 50 points per game. Imagine also throwing Randy Moss on that team. I think you're talking about 2 national championships at least. I don't know if I think they would have won it in '95 too, or if he'd have stayed in '98. Because remember, they played for it in '96 and they played for it in '98. And I feel like even if Outson is your quarterback in '98, I think he can just throw it up to 84, and that's probably going to do some good things. Well, imagine 1998.
They didn't throw it up to 9. So
one wide receiver is Peter Warwick, and the other one is Randy Moss. That's a wrap.
Well,
that's a wrap.
Look at Alabama. Alabama had Jerry Jeudy and Ruggs and Jalen Waddle, and they got smoked by Clemson. So
yeah, they're not as good as Randy Moss. No, and I'm only saying that, I'm not saying
you're probably right, but I can't believe you dismissed the Jeremy Pruitt thing. I don't know if because you don't want to be prisoner of the moment too much, but, man, come on, that 14 defense was soft.
Yeah, but they still got – would he have made enough of a difference to beat Oregon?
Yeah, I think because it's a cultural thing. I think that whole
maybe.
The 13 previous games, 14 previous weeks, they're not as toothless as they were. So
I wonder if there's another one in there though. Obviously, those two are big ones. I'd say Randy Moss is bigger just because I just think you're guaranteed of winning at least one more national championship and perhaps 3 more. I mean, the guy, because you're talking literally about the second best wide receiver in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
I just don't think the ACC would have had much for him. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I don't. But yeah, Jeremy Pruitt, I think the 94, and the thing with the 2014 team is, okay, maybe they wouldn't have even had to play Oregon if he's the DC.
Yeah. Because
they would have won games, instead of winning every game 27-25, they'd have been winning games 38-9. So yeah, there's something got lost in translation from the Jeremy Pruitt defense to the Charles Kelly defense for sure. But man, Randy Moss, I just would have loved to have. What an unbelievable offense that would have been incredible. Thad Busby would have won 3 Heismans in a row. Yeah.
He would have been Ron Powless.
Yeah, he literally, because they wouldn't have. That's how it was back then. Gino Toretto won a Heisman.
Yeah.
They would give it to the guy that was the quarterback on the best team, and Busby's numbers would have been incredible. So anyway,
do you think today what we're living in is like a top 10 what if? Like, what if this didn't happen? Florida State, basketball.
With the basketball team?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's certainly a top 10 what if.
I can't well, what about maybe for baseball for Mike Martin? Who was it was it Blair Varnes? But he pitched his tail off with the torn ACL. So
he still came out and pitched.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to think of a recruit that got away.
Right.
Probably Sam Howell.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. There's your question, Reddick Knoll. If Sam, forget, who's playing offensive line. If Sam Howell had committed, Willie Taggart probably still head football coach at Florida State.
I don't know. But yes, he would have had a better chance of still being the head football coach. But, man, anyway.
All right, let's take a couple more. We'll do the remainders either after Corey's live chat, or maybe we'll do it for Friday, or maybe we'll save them for Monday. We have several more, so let's figure this out, Aslan. Maxwell Gibbs. Outside of Coach Ham and the basketball team getting robbed of a chance at a Final Four run, what's been the most depressing thing for you both? For me, it's that our idiot governor in New York thinks closing gyms is a smart move. A lot of people, including myself, use the gym as a place to deal with stress and anxiety in our lives. Well, now when I need it most, it's been taken away from me. I hate how people don't stay home when they're sick. I always have. Anyways, hope you two have plenty of toilet paper.
I'm not obviously I don't have my medical degree quite yet, but I get that they just want people to stay home, but I also get, like, if a gym is crowded, then yeah, that's not probably the smartest thing to do is have 75 people in a Gold's or 150 people in a Gold's gym. But I don't go to the gym enough anymore. Like, don't you get to spread out a pretty good amount?
Yeah, I'll say I went on Monday and I counted. There was 34 of us in there.
Ooh.
And then and I don't know how big of a facility it is. It's a pretty decent sized facility. I mean, I'll be honest, there was nobody within 6 feet of me the entire time. Like, I mean, everything I did, there was so much space in there because there was nobody in there. I mean, it's usually a lot
everybody's wiping everything down,
which is great, which I hope sustains, but I doubt it will, but I hope it does. And then on Tuesday at like 1:53, they come up to everybody and they're like, we're closing at 2 p.m. Corporate just said we're closing at 2 o'clock. I'm like, are you guys done then? He's like, no, we're going to open up in the morning. We're just going to start closing at 2 o'clock. But then I checked their Facebook page, and they're closing all their locations for 15 days. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can understand it more at a gym because I guess this thing lives a little bit longer on hard surfaces. But, yeah, everybody's constantly, like, wiping things down. There's hand sanitizer everywhere. There's I wish, I guess with the 10 – because the White House said they recommend no gathering of 10 people. Like, if they kept it at 50, that'd been kind of cool if they would have made it like a nightclub where they're kind of like, hey, we're at capacity, you can't come in here. And then you can just kind of wait outside or wait in your car, and then, you know, when somebody walks out, then you can kind of walk in. I was hoping they'd be able to maybe work something like that out, but they're not. So
well, and the reason I bring it up, I think a gym is a really good point because, man, there are a lot of people with a lot of addictive personalities. Again, I'm not a psychologist either, if you guys can believe that. But and they get addicted to that. And the gym is their addiction. And it's what they do 2 or 3 hours every day. Right. And where is that focus going to go to now? You know, and it's certainly not me. I'm not talking about myself. Yeah. But there are a lot of people where the gym isn't maybe their life completely, but it's an enormous part of their lives.
It's a sanctuary.
And it is, and it's a place, where they are stressed, and you don't want that stress to get pent up. You hope they have an avenue, some sort of avenue to get all that out. But I get it, man. I don't think any of us quite know, and I know I was questioning the decision. I wasn't really questioning. I just I didn't know if the gyms were different, if they were, if there's only 12 people in there, why that would be any different than a grocery store, except you're sweating everywhere. And I guess if you can't just assume that everybody's gonna. If you had people like a pit crew, every time somebody got up from the bench, they wiped it down and wiped down the bar and wiped down the weights. Yeah. But other than that, you're hoping that the people that are in there are doing it for you, and that's not always how people behave. So I get it, but again, I use the bummer all the time, but there's a lot of people that is something they do every day. It is an enormous part of their day. It is an addiction, a good addiction, but it's an addiction. And what are they going to do with all that pent-up energy, stress? Where does it go? I guess push-ups.
I mean, I literally, as soon as they closed it, like, we'll be fine tomorrow. And I'm just like, yeah, you're not. I went to the store and I bought a yoga mat. Because I'm like, I'm just going to probably be doing yoga on demand from the cable box because I'm an old guy. And I'm just going to run around the neighborhood. I ran like a mile.
You should film that. You should film yourself doing yoga.
I'll try, yeah.
Is it hot yoga?
No, I'm just doing it at my crib. I'm just doing it at the crib.
So kind of warm yoga?
Warmish yoga.
Okay. All right,
and
gotcha.
Shout out to Engineer Noel, I think, on Twitter. I posted a question. When I was a kid, there was a park in Clearwater. There was even one in Orlando, I remember, when we'd visit my cousins. And each of them had like a pond in the middle of the park, and there was a path around the park. People go there to walk, obviously. There's a playground. But in that like loop around the lake, there would be every 15, 20 yards, there would be like a workout station with like a pull-up bar or a balance beam or just like a patch of grass, and it was like, do 20 push-ups here. And you could it was like a circuit. Like you just walk around this lake, and every 15, 20 yards, there would just be like some sort of physical, exercise you could do. I'm like, whatever happened to those things? Apparently there's one in Midtown, which is, I Google mapped it. It's like 2 miles away from me, so I'm going to go check it out. Although I think
Which park?
I think Lafayette Park.
Okay,
said,
nice.
I think he said. So I'll go check that out. Because, I'm close to zagging, Corey. I'm not lying, man. I don't know. This rest of this week, I'll zig.
Don't do it. Man, you just saw Kevin Durant tested positive.
I know.
The numbers just keep going up and up. I'm telling you, that Monday press conference worried the bejesus out of me. Yeah. Like, I want the president to be like, it's terrific. Everything's fine, great, doing great. Not, stone cold, stone-faced Trump.
Or just, stay on script. Because you've been going this whole time, you've been like, it's not a big deal, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
And now you're like.
Somebody got a message to him like, hey, buddy, this is really, like, does he have it? Like, it's really serious. He was so different. It's like, oh, man, that's chilling. That's chilling.
But then he went on Twitter and called out an entire country practically. So he's all right. He's all right.
Well, what are you going to do?
Back to his little tricks. Let's take one last question. It is a bit sports related, so let me write this down so I know where to direct everybody. Again, folks, I know we're jumping around with all these topics, and I see the Le Batard still doing a radio show. Most of the ESPN radio shows are still going on. I'm working at home. I'm bored. This is my job, so I should be doing it regardless if there was a crisis going on or not. But, watching all this NFL free agency stuff, I'm a little bit interested to kind of see where Jameis winds up, but I'm like, who cares? Although, I don't know, man. Some of these trades are crazy. Like DeAndre Hopkins getting traded. I'm like, whoa, look at the NFL. But it's weird to talk about sports. I love sports. It's a huge part of my life. It's obviously my occupation. It's my career. It's my life's work. But it's just like, man, we're going to have to stay inside our houses for who knows how long. This kind of – I'm not getting an escape by watching ESPN, really.
No.
It feels kind of half-hearted, but, I know you folks want to listen to sports. So in the item description, we're jumping around. If you look in the item description, you'll see the timestamp of where you can kind of go in the show to get your meat and potatoes. With that said, here we go. Danny P26. What's up, my guys? He's been a member since 2005. This is only his 19th ever post. That always makes me feel good when people come out the woodwork like that. Thanks, Danny P26. I know that sports are on pause for right now, and a lot of us are going through withdrawals, but I wanted to know, who would you honestly blame for the complete collapse of the offensive line over the last few years?
I thought that question was going in a different direction.
Was it Rick Trickett? Was he over his head? Did he just not give a crap or fed up working for Jimbo? Was it Willie's ineptitude that led to this putrid offensive line? Do you guys honestly think that Coach Norvell will be able to rectify the offensive line issues and take us back to the mountaintop? Or will he suffer the same fate as Willie and leave our offensive line in even worse shape? The O-line can't suck forever, can it?
Well,
That's a lot of layers, lots of layers.
You wouldn't have thought, but we're going on half a decade now.
Fourth different guy.
Honestly, man, I laid my first instinct is to say Trickett, but no, man, Trickett didn't hire himself, and Trickett didn't keep himself employed. So I think the brunt of it is Jimbo. Because Jimbo kept him employed. I've said it a million times. When Rick Trickett is your offensive line coach, you shrink your pond that you're recruiting in substantially.
When should he have fired him, though, Corey? Going into 13 or going into 12, it was like, man, this is not going to work. But then they win 13 games or win 12 games, win the conference title, and then win a national championship. So was it fire him after 15? Fire him after 16?
I think 15 or 16, probably 16. Literally, we made jokes on headlines about Francois being looking like a murder victim.
Yeah,
he needed a police outline.
You're right. Right.
So I think 16 was when it was just obvious that this was not normal. This was not how a good to great football program can sustain itself.
But he had that good recruiting
class.
Bad. They got that good recruiting class, though, at least on paper. Again, on paper. Jawan Williams, Landon Dickerson, Andrew Baselli. I think there's somebody else in there.
Yeah, so again, that's on paper it looks good, but then who evaluated them?
Right.
who recruited those guys and said, "Yep, those guys can make be a championship offensive line." So that to me is the biggest blame. You can combine them if you want and say Jimbo / Trickett, whatever you want to do.
Okay. That
put them in the hole. Willie certainly didn't dig anybody out of a hole. It's just because what happened was it's hard to recruit greatness when you have a really hard coach to play for. Again, there's just some guys that he couldn't coach, just wasn't going to coach. They weren't interested in playing for Rick Trickett. Then Willie comes in, brings in 2 different offensive line coaches in 2 years, so there's no stability, which is fine. I get why he did it. I'm not criticizing getting rid of Greg Fry to bring in Randy Clements so you can have Kendall Briles. But there's no stability. That's 3 offensive line coaches in 3 years that have no relationships with any of the recruits in the state. So then I don't think any of them don't have the knowledge to recruit the position. But when you don't have any stability at the position for 3 straight years, how do you have any relationships with any of the recruits you're really recruiting? They're not going to come play for a guy that he might not be there next year. So I think that didn't help either. And also how bad the product was the last 2 years, let's be frank. Right. That's the reason recruiting is plummeted anyway, is because of how bad the product has been, and that goes for offensive line too. Why, if you're a big-time player, I think it's the kid that ended up going to Clemson that wanted to go to Florida State.
Wilt Putnam.
But if you're his dad, why would you?
Yeah.
You understood that. I understood that. You see that product, and you're like, no, I'm not going to send he only gets to go to college once. I'm not going to send him to do that. Now with an open transfer portal, they can go all over anywhere they want to go, but back then he didn't know that, I guess. But even still, I think if you want to give the percentages on who's to blame, I don't know, man, 65-35 to Jimbo, to Trickett, to Willie. Because at some point you got to stop blaming. Jimbo can't be to blame for the 2021 season. He'll be 3 or 4 years removed. But Jimbo got him started on the wrong path. Willie took over an embarrassing offensive line. It's hard to win a ton of games with an embarrassing offensive line, and he didn't. He proved that. So they're all connected, but I don't think Norvell in 2022 can really blame either one of them. But certainly I think by that time Jimbo's fingerprints are off it.
Well said. That's all pretty accurate. Can't really argue or debate further on that. It's just it is crazy to me. I think I was talking to Ira about it when we played tennis on Sunday, just about offensive line, because it was one of the questions we talked about in the roundtable discussion. So you feel bad for a guy like Alex Atkins because I don't think there's anybody right now. Maybe Dante Lucas is that guy, but I don't think there's one single guy that's practicing right now that Alex Atkins is. And again, it's only 3 practices, but I don't think he's seeing anybody. And he's like, okay, I got at least one spot figured out. He doesn't. I think he looks around and he's like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to. He's got a plan, but there's nobody that he can count on and rely on that's practicing right now. Maybe he looks at Dante Lucas's tape and thinks, okay, that's a guy I can rely on. I made a comment about, I think even with his health worries and stuff, Randy Clements saw Landon Dickerson for a week or 2 of spring practice, and Landon Dickerson was just a different guy. And he's not Anthony Munoz. He's not Jonathan Ogden. He's not Bruce Matthews. But, you would just see everybody go through the drills, and you would see, kind of the reaction from Randy Clements when guys would go through the drill and Landon Dickerson would get his rep in. And it was just kind of all right, good. That's the way I want you guys to do it. Can you just try to do it like that? And nobody else really could. So – and you're seeing kind of what he did at Alabama last season when he can stay healthy. It's crazy to think that all these different guys, Trickett, Jimbo, Greg Fry, and I guess to some certain degree Randy Clements, have recruited all these offensive linemen, and it's just they've just swung and you can't swing and miss 13 out of 14 kids. Can you? I guess that's to the point that Danny P's asking us. It's crazy to think that's the case. I went back and looked at it. Randy Clements in Houston had the 8th best pass protection grade on Pro Football Focus in 2018. And that was our whole thing, right? Core's man, they were top 10. Did you just get Florida State to 60th? Just be somewhere in the 60s. That's not asking for the world, and they got nowhere close to that. So, what are we to expect? Another guy, same kind of chairs on the same deck. But maybe this offense, maybe, they talk about they tailor this offense to playmakers. It's all about playmakers. Well, maybe they'll figure out a way to make plays with a really shoddy offensive line.
Well, number one, they're older. You hope they're stronger. The strength coach is an enormous deal.
There you go. That's true.
So you hope they're stronger. They're definitely older. So you hope they get a little bit better. I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. So maybe they just won't be god-awful. Maybe they'll just be bad. That's what you're hoping for, or average or mediocre. And that's a big step. But again, you're looking toward, it's going to be their fourth O-line coach in 4 years. Has that ever happened? That's
not
incredible.
Here. I don't think
Not been anywhere. Has there ever been a school that's had 4 in 4 years? So they got to get adjusted to somebody else again. Everything's new again for these guys. But they should be bigger. They should be a little bit better, you hope, which makes them at least mediocre. And that would be a big step up. And then what you're really hoping for is, like I said, 2022. Get some guys in here by that time that can really play. And nobody is, other than Alabama, nobody's ever 100%. Trust me, I watch Georgia, and I know Georgia fans. They're not fired. They weren't always fired up about their offensive line either. Yeah. You're never going to be 100% satisfied with an offensive line. It is the position that you notice it a lot when things go wrong poorly. When things go right and James Blackman does get time to throw, you don't really take that into account too often. It's just the nature of that position. But in 2022, you could have a good offensive line. And that's the difference. 2 or 3 wins a year, at least, you would think.
Will they be playing football in 2022? We'll be back
Who
by
knows,
then, right?
man?
We'll be back by
Hey,
then,
by the
right?
way, we got to talk about this before we get off the show. And you should even put this in the detail notes so people know that we do talk about it. Is I have to assume Jameis is no longer in Tampa Bay because they just signed Tom Brady.
So if you had $1,000 to – and I guess obviously the odds matter in this decision. Would you put $1,000 on Jameis Winston in New England to win a Super Bowl or Tom Brady to win a Super Bowl in Tampa? I'd put it on Jameis. And I think I would have liked to see them maybe just franchise him for 1 year, but I don't know the whole politics of, the Kirk Cousins thing of constantly doing that and creating friction. But listen, man, the only people that defend Jameis Winston are Florida State fans that are also Tampa Bay Buck fans. He turned the ball over in the most absurd ways over and over again. He's 5 years in the league, right? He's been in the league for 5 years.
Yeah.
And he's kind of been enabled to a certain degree. The first year was, he did pretty good as a rookie. We don't know about this head coach. Let's make the offensive coordinator the head coach. And what's Dirk Cutter going to do? And then you get a total players coach like, Bruce Arians that, went up there and kind of defended him a little. Well, that wasn't his fault on interception. It was a bad route. And maybe that stuff's true, but there was a certain degree of him sticking up for him. And then people are like, see, it's because the Bucs, man, the franchise terrible. No, there's never been anybody other than maybe Jimbo. And I think after 13, James was kind of like, whatever. That's really like put fear or earned his respect. Like truly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm sure he respected Dirk Cutter. He's not going out there and changing plays and going AWOL. But like maybe if he goes and plays for a guy like Belichick, that would just literally would have to scare the hell out of him. Maybe that'll be what he needs. Otherwise, I just don't know what changes with him. If he goes to, I don't know. I mean, I don't say the Bengals. I mean, who else out there needs a quarterback? Like if he goes to the Panthers, like what, Matt Rule's
Well, no, they're getting Bridgewater.
Yeah, so.
The Bears? I think the
cool.
Bears are a possibility.
Matt Nagy. But see, I think Matt Nagy's a quarterback. He's a quarterback coach by nature. I think he'd be one of those guys that'd be all like, he's my guy. I'm going to put my arm around him. I'm going to love him up. It's like, no, man. He needs to be freaking strangled. Stop turning the ball over. But yeah, so Tom Brady's a Buccaneer. It's happened. It's official.
Yeah. According to Schefter.
What is he doing? Why would you do that? That just must have been miserable to play for Bill Belichick. You go in the same place for 20 years, you can get away with – you can't get away with whatever you want because there's big-time rules there, but just to, leave that stability, to go into the twilight of your career. And if you talk to Bucs fans, they got a bad defense or offensive line's not that good. It's so that's what you're walking into if you're Tom Brady. That's crazy.
Well, yeah, but you're right about the Bucs/Knowles fans. It was always an excuse other than, hey, man, the guy might just not be that good.
He is. He's got something
throw
with
30
him.
interceptions.
Yeah.
It's always they don't have a running game. Or, when Jameis's first year was Mike Evans dropping all the passes.
Right.
Well, now Mike Evans is one of the best receivers in the league. So's the other guy.
Godwin,
Yeah, and then
Chris
their
Godwin.
third guy was really good. And at the end, when Jameis was throwing the crazy interceptions, those dudes were hurt. But that doesn't give him an excuse for the first 23. And it's just the kid. You can't win like that. You can't win consistently like that. So we'll see, because I wasn't impressed with Brady at all last year. Like it ain't 2008 Tom Brady. Like, this guy's 43 years old and didn't look like he could throw it at all last year at the end of last year. Now, maybe he got surgery or his arm's better, but he just didn't look great. He wasn't all that impressive. They didn't win a lot of games last year because of Tom Brady.
Yeah, you're right.
The difference between Tom Brady and Jameis Winston, though, is the Patriots didn't lose any games because of Tom Brady either.
Right. Maybe
The Bucs for 4 or 5 years have been losing games because of Jameis Winston, and now it's like they decided to go from did a complete 180, like the most different possible quarterback they could get. I don't know if Tom Brady has thrown 30 interceptions combined in the last 7 years.
There you go. Jameis Winston, interceptions in 2019, 30. Tom Brady, interceptions from 2016 to 2019, which is 4 seasons, 29.
Yeah, so he throws 7 a year as opposed to 30. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't necessarily know that they're going to be any better, because Jameis does do. I mean, he threw for 5,000 yards, and they were like, I think Tampa was like third in the league or second in the league in scoring. Yeah. He was first in the league in passing yards, second in touchdowns, without a running game. I mean, it should be pointed out he didn't have much of a running game. So that's impressive what he did. If you just didn't turn it over 35 times total, if you count his fumbles. That's just too much, man. Yeah. And I think finally the Bucs are like, we've got a chance at Tom Brady. All right, let's see how this works with a guy that we know won't turn the ball over. He might be able to make the throws 35 yards downfield on a rope or on a line, or get it to Evans 60 yards downfield. But he's also not going to give the other team the ball 3 times at our 30. So let's see how this works. It's really fascinating, man. And I think even more fascinating, I don't expect the Bucs to win a Super Bowl because of Tom Brady. But what's really fascinating is what happens to Jameis. Because you can't watch him play and think Ryan Leaf.
Oh, no.
Or
no.
Jake Locker.
Yeah.
Or even the dude that was at the Jaguars that didn't get them, but was on the AFC Championship
Blake
team.
Bortles.
Yeah. He's better than that. He's got the potential to be incredible. But is it even in him to do it? Is it even in him, like, to not turn the ball over? Is that just part of who he is? It's going to be fascinating where he lands.
Again,
because if I'm the Bears,
who's take him? I take
quarterback
him in a
is just
Trubisky's garbage.
Straight up average, just straight up average. I would take him in a heartbeat. To see, he might be. I just said that he lost a few. I think Trubisky loses games for the Bears because he can't make any plays.
Yeah.
They lose every game 17-12 because he can't make any plays. Okay, well, at least with Jameis, you're going to score some points. Now, there's going to be a pick six every other game. You just got to live with it. But he'll score some points for you. And it would be interesting to see Jameis with the defense. Maybe he would change the way he played. And because these last 2 years, I feel like he's always thought he's had to score 35 points to win.
Right.
But maybe if Nagy's like, look, just get me to 20.
Yeah.
Because I think they just signed the Bears just signed a really good defensive lineman from the Cowboys, whose name escapes me right now.
I'll check it out.
The Bears' defense is going to be incredible. Robert Quinn, maybe?
There you go. Well, he was playing for the Rams at one point, but I think he did bounce to the Cowboys. I think you're right.
So they have him with Mack and the other guys. It's like, man, their defense is going to be really good. If they can just get to 20 points a game or 23, they should go 13-3. But, do you take a risk on Jameis thinking that he can straight up lose games for you if he with four interceptions? So, I don't know. It's going to be really fast. There's never been a free agent, which I assume Jameis is going to be now because they're not going to franchise him to be a backup for $25 million a year when they're paying Brady $30 million. There's never been a free agent like this. I don't think there's ever been a free agent that's thrown for 5,000 yards before in a season.
No. I mean, the thing.
It's going to be really fascinating where he lands.
Like a couple of quick hitters for me. I just think it's such a dichotomy kind of paradox for him because I think he obviously needs to be in a quarterback-friendly system, but I also think like a guy like Matt Nagy would create that. But I think he needs like that Bill Belichick, I will cut you, kid. Like I will cut you if you screw this up for us. Like he hasn't had that kind of overbearing presence in his career in the NFL at all. I do wonder what this means for like Brady. I mean, Brady's legacy, obviously is pretty bulletproof at this point. But like if he comes to Tampa and just flames out and goes 9-7, they don't make the playoffs, and then the Patriots end up going and like getting to the AFC Championship game. I wonder if people talk about things differently at all. If he wins a Super Bowl, is it just like he's the best athlete ever? Like is he better than Michael Jordan if he wins it? And then, again, it just kind of makes you appreciate what 2013 was because we thought that's what he was. We thought, well, this kid is amazing. He was created in some sort of factory and dropped off on the doorstep of some family in Bessemer, Alabama. But no, man, he's he's turnover prone. I don't know what they did in 13 to make that work, but it has to make you appreciate it that much more because that was the anomaly. That was the outlier. 40 touchdowns and 13 picks or whatever it was. That sadly is the outlier. We thought that was the norm, and it's not. But maybe he'll change it.
Let's hope, man. I mean, there's a lot of ability there, obviously. And he did get the LASIK surgery.
He did? Yeah, right.
Maybe that's all he needed. Seriously,
That's the biggest
he ever
what
played.
If. That's the biggest what if in Florida State history, right, Corey? If he would have got the LASIK in 14.
No, I don't think so. I think they still lose to Oregon if they turn it over. He didn't play poorly. Like, none of the interceptions he threw against Oregon were, like,
it was Dalvin.
Just right to guys' chests. They were
Dalvin.
Drop balls and Dalvin fumbling it, and then Jameis fumbling it there at the end. But the best he ever played was when he was squinting.
Yeah. That's true.
Remember that? It looked like he couldn't even see what was going on. It looked like he was in a blizzard. Every time he looked to the sideline for a signal, and then I think he did something to his eyesight the next year, contact or corrective lens. I don't know what he did.
I thought he took
it was
him
never
out,
quite
though.
the same. He needs to go back to squinting.
I don't know. I think he took
that.
him out.
Jameis Winston was literally the best college quarterback I've ever seen.
I know.
That Jameis Winston. Get back to squinting.
I like what you said, though. I think Bears would be I think of all the destinations, I think Bears, despite the fact that, again, I think Matt Nagy would probably be too much of an enabler for him. If you're not going to go to New England, I think that's probably the best place to go.
Man, imagine him in New England. Holy moly. That would be something. They just traded Tom Brady and Jameis Winston.
Did Phillip Rivers sign with the Colts, right? So they're off the table.
Why not the Steelers?
I think Frank Reich would have been good. Steelers? Yeah, Steelers need a quarterback. Well, I don't know.
He's pretty old.
Ben's still there, but he's on the payroll, though. I mean,
yeah, but he's old. He can't last too much longer. Wouldn't you give and he never is healthy for a full year. So wouldn't you get Jameis can't take a lot of money as a backup. So maybe pay Jameis like, I don't know, $5 or $6 million a year to be the backup and see how that looks.
Maybe the Rams. But then they re-signed Goff like last year.
Yeah, they Goff's too much money. Yeah, we can't,
Anyway, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure a destination for him.
We'll talk about it. Check out the live chat, 1:30 Eastern Wednesday. Corey will be talking about the state of affairs. Maybe we'll have a little bit more background on Florida State and the path forward in terms of maybe baseball. Most likely we'll be talking about kind of focused a little bit because we'll have a teleconference with Mike Martin Jr. in the morning, but maybe that'll give us some other answers, some tea leaves, right, Corey? We can read the tea leaves and see maybe when we can expect sports back in Tallahassee. And
hopefully sometime soon for all of us.
Yeah. All right, he's Corey Clark. I'm Aslan Giovanni. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good.
Some call them lunchtime lifesavers. Others call them the most perfect sandwiches to ever exist. At Zaxby's, we just call them our signature fan favorites. The Southern TLC Filet Sandwich has hand-breaded chicken with fresh tomato and crisp lettuce. The famous Kickin' Chicken Sandwich features spicy tongue torch and Cool Ranch sauces. And for a limited time, fried pickles are back. 2 classic sandwiches and a legendary appetizer. 3 more reasons you're gonna get a kick out of Zaxby's.